It's Monday, December 5th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and you can see here on the daily chart, we end up with a 2 down red bar to the downside. We stayed below the midpoint of the prior day. I'll show you in a second. We broke below the pre-market lows early in the session. We moved red all day. So now we are trying to figure out if we are simply looking at this big trading range that's been in place for a while. Back here we had a one-day potential breakout, and this might be a big failure. And if we continue down and kind of move to the bottom of this range and break through, that's the yellow line, and that shows on the monthly chart we actually could be getting a monthly failure where we briefly went above the high of that previous month, never really took out that target, and moved to the, if we get down to the yellow line, we've taken out the halfway point of that month. We're still not there yet. This can still just be a couple of days starting December that starts down and immediately goes up. But in order for that to happen, we're going to have to start getting above the midpoint of today, or maybe moving down a little bit and failing, and then, tomorrow going below the low and then coming up to the midpoint of that day, then that will show a potential reversal. Again, we had this big green bar that was a breakout of a range, and it had some inefficient pricing in here. So even on this down day, we could just still be filling in this range. But given how a price opens, and I always talk about it, that guides us to whether we are going to kind of, fail in this area on the way down and start back up, or maybe just break right on through. At the moment, we're still biased a little bit to the downside here, given the weekly chart today starts red, and the monthly chart ever since the December 1st has been red, moving down. We know in order to get above the purple line here, that's this line that gets the monthly chart green again. So whatever consolidation takes place in here, if we head higher, we have to break above that line to really get full strong continuity to the upside. If we can't do it, then we might be failing, this big uptrend. So for now, that weekly chart, I keep talking about it. We want to see it breaking down. This is possibly a start to that. If you're going to look, let's say this is a big red bar by the end of the week, and there's a lot of stops here to be taken out. You'd look back on this week and you'd say, oh, this week started red, right, kind of below the midpoint of the prior week, and went all the way down, and it was pretty easy. So if we look at just today's trading, the 15-minute chart, it actually was pretty easy. I mean, the first bar, I talked about how we were starting out near the lower end of the pre-market range. First bar started up a little bit, just in line with a lot of, gaps down that have been bought. People try to do it, but the first bar didn't even close strongly green, and then we had the immediate follow through the downside. There's your sell signal, come down, orderly pullback, as I always look for, just 4 bars here to kind of the midpoint of that first move down, and then you had the secondary move down here. We went down all day. So it was really a pretty easy day to be on the downside. And, if you watch 15-minute structure, it just moved down all day, and that's it. And you had to be short in terms of the SPY itself. So now let's just say, we close red. We're anticipating kind of moving lower, but we really want to see, do we get follow through to really take out the low of this big range that's been in place, or does somehow tomorrow, turnaround Tuesday happen? And we'll judge, the pre-market action. We'll see where the pre-market range is. We'll know what the high of that range is. We'll have to see green bars moving up above the highs pretty early in the day. If not, then we still stick with the downside. In terms of the individual stocks, I mean, to me, it was pretty clear. The opening trade I put in place was on Tesla to the downside. Once I saw the market kind of failing and I looked at the bigger picture of this chart, I bought the puts right here. It was an easy, trade down to here. Then there was a great secondary entry right here. Orderly pullback, sec move to take out the lows of the day, went lower. Then there was even, given the fact that we were kind of near the bottom of the range, maybe the SPY was going to reverse and come up, I saw United Healthcare give a great buy signal. So even on a down day, there's always a stock or two, and this had a clear a failure, 2 down day, taking out the low of the day, moving to the midpoint of the prior day, right at a key time, with the first bar up, pause, third bar started high. So I bought there. And in the morning directional trade, a great trade here, almost 5 points to the upside. So there were, equal opportunities. But generally, once you saw the market failing all day, the Dow was down close to 500 points. Stocks like Netflix, when it couldn't go above its first bar and it couldn't make an orderly, he was the orderly pullback and the attempt higher. Once that failed and you kind of consolidated in here, the odds were that you were going to take out these lows. And so there were a lot of secondary trades if you wanted to look for them to go short during the day, if you didn't even play the opening in some form. Same thing with NVIDIA was like that. That had a decent little looking up move to start, but once it failed and kind of paused in here, you sense you were going to take out those intraday lows. Not as, weak as Netflix or Tesla, but, it was pretty easy to look at the structure structure of all these different stocks and decide which ones to play. But definitely the downside was you know, the majority of the stock. So anyway, we come into tomorrow. Let's see if we continue lower. We're going to, as long as we stay below the midpoint of this bar and head lower, we'll continue to play that. See if we work our way down to this yellow line. Know that maybe we're in this just 2 days of, you know, this could be a big bull flag kind of forming here for the first 3 days of the month. And then we start up. It's possible. We'll just have to see how things open tomorrow.